Really got to figure out how to set up. Is there a? Oh, there's like an infinity sign on that intro outro thing.
Huh. That's fun.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know how long it'll run if
Yeah.
it's not on infinity. So I kind of like where it changes pace or like the sound like at 20 seconds changes. So that's what I always wait for. So I leave it to like 30 seconds. But yeah, very simple, very simple intro sound thing. It's just like the sound is right to me, and I just like those sounds. It's kind of the same thing that when I listen to music, it's like, oh, I like I was feeling the sound on that album, or maybe like I like this song from this artist because of the, sound that they created, but the rest
It,
of the discography, I just don't, I can't vibe with. It's really weird.
yeah. I think you're supposed to say vibe now. I like the vibe of this song. I like the vibe of this album. Can't say CD anymore. That's my take because I'm an old man.
No, we'll get to the point where, everyone cares about vinyl, and then I don't think we're ever getting back to 8 tracks or cassette tapes or CDs or
CDs are actually CDs and cassettes were actually popular during the pandemic, I think, and I think they're actually getting more popular among younger people just because that's what their parents grew up with, right? So feel free to be wrong about that. I really hope I don't want to see kids unwinding cassettes uh, like I used to when I was a kid. Anyway, David, how are you?
tired. What
Bah
about you?
humbug. Yeah, same. It, it's been a crazy week and a half. I feel like you every time I talk to you, you set me back. You set me straight. So I think you need you to work some of the magic on this one too.
I don't know about. I was hoping you could help me out. So I don't
Oh,
know. No,
this might
we're
just be
both
a tune-up. Yeah,
fucked.
right.
God damn it! Like
Sharon.
we had a line before we started recording. I asked you if you needed anything and if you wanted to talk about anything, and these are some of the things I need to know.
No, we're just gonna flush it out here. We're just give the people what they want. We're gonna give them real podcasting, no editing, including him breathing and that 30-second intro we kind of flub, but it is what it is. Let's just keep rolling. We got 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, there's something to be said about off the cuff, and then things that I come in want to talk about, but
Oh, sure,
if
sure,
you
sure.
all the burps and coughs and sneezes and heavy breathing, yeah, those are all authentic. That's why we leave them in. It has nothing to do with me being too lazy to edit. I just hit record and then publish. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. So,
Fair enough, fair enough.
but yeah,
Well,
I just been tired. Things at work. I was in a pretty good flow last week, and then I had a bombshell dropped on me. So partially my fault, partially an issue with some of the data. So I spent a long time on Friday. I kind of get to that fight or flight mode. So I was running on pure adrenaline, and then 8 hours on Sunday. So that kind of continued throughout the weekend. But yeah, I think I got in too deep at one point, was sending a bunch of updates and making sure everyone was like everyone was aware of what I was finding and what I was looking into. And then Sunday I finally realized what it was, and it was a pretty hard thing to track down. So I was pretty proud about that, and I was able to rectify most of the changes that we pushed that shouldn't have been. But come to find out, somebody else had mentioned this a couple of years ago, and they didn't prioritize or really feel like it was needed to be prioritized. And I'm like, well, sure, but we're all operating like this isn't a thing. Like,
yeah, sure.
that's I'm pissed off that I spent all that time digging into this first of all, but second of all, like, how does no one know that this is an issue? Like, why are we just setting and forgetting about stuff? It's not the right mindset to have. So that was like part of it. And then today, had a meet with my manager, and we're both just completely out of it. And I'm like, yeah, we're not. Neither of us are having a good day.
Yeah.
Uh, but it happens, and you start to learn a little bit more about what it's like to just human ingenuity and things. Digging into stuff, making discoveries, reporting it out, and trying to gain that knowledge. But yeah, I mean, it's like a really weird thing that I never really understood, and kind of what I realized more about myself. I'd always, when things don't really matter, I like being wrong, because if I'm wrong, somebody is incentivized to correct you, about things that don't really matter. Somebody asks you whose name was responsible for doing something because they couldn't remember. You're like, I think it's this person, and then maybe somebody corrects you. So at least they get the answer quick enough. But
Yeah.
for some reason, like, people are just afraid of being wrong or being stupid. It's like, no, I love being wrong in some cases, not when things actually matter, but in some of the other stuff, like, I don't mind asking a dumb question. I don't mind, saying, well, I thought we were doing this, and then getting corrected on it, because, it's like, no one's incentivized more to give an answer to prove you wrong or correct you or something. So even like growing up, it, you'd have that in the classroom. No one would raise their hand and the teacher ask a question. So I just shoot my hand up and just, whatever I thought it was. If I was between two things and I'm wrong, and somebody else has more confidence to put their hand up and get the right answer. I don't really care about being right. I just want to move things along. Like that was, and same thing with, like, does anyone want to read? I'm like, yes, please pick me. I don't want to sit through like somebody that is going to read really slow, or whatever else. I kind of I want to keep this going, and starting to realize some of that just about my own introspection and my own management of how I do things and throughout life. And when maybe I get a little too deep or get a little too siloed off, that I don't realize in enough time that I need to take a step back, or I need to take a break, or I got to stop, try to find a way to stop thinking about what I'm currently doing and come back to it with a fresh set of eyes, fresh mindset. Because I think it's some of those things that are very hard to figure out. And it's the same with anything that we do is healthy, that feeling you get compounds over time. It's not instant gratification. So with work, it's easy enough to get that feeling of accomplishment, that aha moment, and this and that. But it's just you by yourself, and you're sitting there figuring things out and trying to figure out what works. It's like talking to my therapist today. And like the fishing spot analogy. When the fish aren't biting and I pick a bad spot, is it a bad day? Do I, switch spots? If I switch spots and then somebody else comes here and catches a bunch of fish, I would be mad. Like, same thing with figuring out kind of what works for you. And I think that trial and the effort that it takes for me with that trial and error is sometimes the reason why I won't start something. There's also that fear of failure, and feeling ashamed that I couldn't commit and stick with something. But I think that other aspect of it, really digs at me as well.
Yeah, I totally get that. Like you on if I'm understanding your last part correctly, it's hard for you to pull away, and I get that more than most, because especially when I'm coding, something's not working, or I don't feel like asking ChatGPT or anything like that. I just want to figure it out on my own. Like, I want to feel that sense of accomplishment. But like, I've learned with my current role that, like, you kind of have to be jack of all trades and a master of none in a lot of situations. Like, I mean, I know Google Analytics, I know Google Tag Manager, I know how to code, I know, HTTP responses, like I know basic project management, like I know all of these things, but I don't necessarily do all of them well, but I'm well, I have to be versed enough to be able to communicate, right? Like I kind of feel like a glorified project manager at some points, but um, I kind of just have to take the win when I can get it, even if it's just like sign up a new customer for, an online account, like quick, easy, maybe some sort of self of accomplishment, um, or sense of accomplishment, not self of accomplishment, and um, but on longer projects, like I've been trying to figure out with a vendor how to map a commission for salespeople from our front end system to our back end system for like 3 months, and like none of us can figure it out. And um, so like I understand it's like it makes me feel dumb in some aspects when I can't when we start with a simple concept from like a salesperson, and then now we have to like try to turn it into this like it's just become this whole mess of API testing and um, that. But we're getting down a funnel, to where I think hopefully it'll work here in the next test batch that we do. But ultimately, I think control what we can control, and unfortunately, sometimes that's not a cooperating code base, a cooperating, spending all that time, like you said earlier, on working on a project, and then this was a huge problem, and someone should have pointed us out, years ago, months ago, whatever the case is. Um, that sucks, but we just kind of have to move on to like the next thing, and we don't necessarily have to look at it as like getting that. At least for me, I don't try to look at it as a win. It's just trying to get uh, something accomplished, even if it's just a small step. Um, so, and for me, my kind of pivoting is my issue has been like training customers because like I know absolutely nothing about plumbing industry. Like I could tell you what a flush valve is, I could tell you what a floor flange is, I can tell you what a toilet is. But all of those separately or put together, I would not be able to tell you anything. I could not sell anything to our customers. So I'm going through these demos with customers and be like, hey, here's a shop, like or our shop site. And, I just, for me, I just kind of feel like an idiot, like just haplessly wandering around, showing them things that probably aren't even necessarily relevant to their own business. And so I've kind of requested that whoever's account I'm demoing, that they as a salesperson are on this call, to kind of point me in the right direction of product that they would buy, right? So um, I'm working on presentation skills, learning my own business a little bit more. But like I feel like it's just more added onto my plate of already being kind of like like a glorified project manager. So, um, but sales sales is finally getting involved with the site, and we're getting more activity. So, you know, I'll pick up my uh, bottom lip, as they say, and keep moving forward. It's our this industry is picking up faster and faster. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, and I'm having a hard time coping with that, David. So I don't know if you have any tips for me.
Not not necessarily, but I do know time invested. At least for me, I do my best work in a crisis, and I'm very motivated by that. So if there's sometimes I try to make a mountain out of a molehill, if I get in too deep and try to find these things, then that's kind of one of the things that I question myself about. But at the same time, I mean, these small wins, they're time invested, understanding this, and other people get to that understanding and just kind of the sharing of knowledge. I don't want, siloed knowledge. I don't want having meetings with people that should have corrected me, that should have known about these things, not saying anything and just going about like it's not that big of a deal. Like, why are we even worried about this? Let's just push this through. And then lo and behold, it's still an issue because I took the time to confirm that things got changed the way that they were supposed to. And it's, yeah, a lot of, difference in change management and these things that just take a lot of time. So for me, I get up from my desk a lot and I step away. I give myself that mental break. I just, I know typing and thinking and sitting there, like at least for me, I can only work at one speed. And if it's for some novel concept or if it's for some knowledge gain or trying to fix a specific problem, like there is some sort of balance between getting that thought out of your mind and then coming back to it. Because I've talked about this before, and it might have been a while, but there's certain things that we do in life, and kind of who we are as people, and it leads us down this road into doing those certain things in different aspects of our life that we never really associated it with. So thinking about other problems that you've had and other problems that you've solved, or times where you had to learn about something very quickly, it can help in that regard. But at work, yeah, I mean, there's only so much time, and I understand that we have concessions about things. Like we accept that, like, oh, this isn't 100% correct, or like I'm probably not the best person to be doing these things, but sometimes that initiative is enough. And maybe at a certain point, like, I mean, it's hard too, because you never want to go up to somebody and tell them like, hey, I can't do this, I don't have time for this, or they're asking for your help on something and you can't give it to them. Like, it doesn't feel good. So how do we
Yeah.
think about kind of separating that, and never want to be that person that feels like you can't go the extra mile, or you can't figure out this problem, or you're not learning fast enough. But I think at least for me, the other way to look at it is, there's always more to learn, whether you're spending time doing things that you'd like to do, or if you're, identify with more of a problem solver mentality and you want to come up with the solution, then until you get that big breaking aha moment solution, then yeah, you're going to be strung out. Well, strung out is probably not the best word for it, but you're going to be disappointed until you get to that point. And I think that's a lot of times in life too, is that we just don't have that gratitude, or we can't look back and see, I'm a lot better at, the pseudo project management role than I was a couple months ago, or a problem reoccurs and it's close to something that you've worked on before, so you can solve it really quickly and you get that like small victory and things. So I think it just kind of all comes in a cycle. And speaking to my therapist today about good habits, is those points where you have to force yourself are some of the most important times, because the hardest times are the ones that you really solidify things in your mind. But they're always gonna be out there regardless of what you're doing. But what does forcing yourself really mean? What is um, if you're forcing yourself to spend time on something that's worth doing, then yeah. But how do we kind of change that mindset? How do we stay positive when you're being asked to do something that you're not the very trained on, very knowledgeable of in certain regards? Like, to me, it's tough, and I wish I, I wish I knew how to how to be better at it. So I'm kind of right there with you. And
Yeah. No, I agree. It's trying to have the time to like teach yourself these things, and like whether it's a new skill or just a new tool for coping, or whatever mental um mental quip, or sort I'm trying to look for it, habit. You know, you have obviously habit breaking is much more difficult, but if you train yourself over time, for these new skills, it gets a little bit better. Like, I'm not like the greatest problem solver. I don't know if that makes me stupid or what, but
no,
um, I kind of I've always been of a visual learner, like hands on do like and fail a lot. I've failed in careers, I've failed in projects. Currently fail, feels like I'm failing, but I know I'm just kind of also learning, on technologies and things that, especially for a platform that I have little to no ability to look under the hood for things, and it's very difficult for me to assess these problems. But I'm learning, especially when things come up, a new platform, like Google Analytics. Like right now, I'm dealing with a tag manager issue. Um, a company whose advertising is trying to put other tags onto our site, but it's really messing with our analytics, and blah 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 blah. They they're the ones who are messing it up, and they're asking me to be like the quarterback for with our platform provider. Um, they installed the tag correctly. There's something going on with their this company's tags, but I'm trying to convince them, and it's like I'm trying to be polite but direct, and like usually I'm one or the other. So being uncomfortable or comfortable in the uncomfortable situations is like, if there's any sort of like tension or conflict, I usually just avoid it and apologize like immediately. But like right now, I'm just sitting in the pocket. I'm like, I don't, it's what they teach you in boxing. you don't you don't necessarily switch positions. You head movement and angles. You're getting in there. um, I'm having to tell this person like politely, like, you were incorrect. You need to fix this problem. Like, you're the one who's been holding up this whole process. Um, and I feel like it's just been email exchanges last couple of days, but it's exhausting. Like, I'm tired with you. Like, just all the mental gymnastics I have to do sometimes with this job. And I'm not complaining because I love working at my job, but there are obviously difficulties about it, especially externally. So, but that's what happens when you work for a wholesale slash online retailer. Like, your reputation and everything is very important. So, but that also comes with certain territories. So, um, and to put it a different way, I've been playing. I think I talked about this last week. I've just been playing a lot of Battlefield 6. Not the greatest game out, not even the most played. It's a series that I've played since I was in high school. But normally, like when I'm like taking an objective, I'm a pretty slow going player. I'll if I'm playing like support where I can like you know heal myself or resupply myself. I'm usually a pretty slow going player when I get to objective. I want to make sure everything's clear. If I see another player, stop and then take 2 steps backwards. But now I'm kind of playing more like an aggressive assault style, which I'm not normally used to, and I've been getting frustrated because I have a good aim. Like, I think I'm like in the top 20% of aim, like, or accuracy. But like, I'm not exactly using the best equipped guns for some of these situations, and I lose and I get frustrated. But you learn how to play, become a better player this way. Um, you know, maybe when I was younger, I may have had a little bit of more natural ability, but I've just been kind of seasoning myself to new and different situations, even if it's just a video game. So, kind of just have to accept that some things are going to be frustrating and beyond that I just need to get better at. Um, but I think trying out new things and you know life, video games, work, um, and learning to fail is going to ultimately or be a best thing. But like you said earlier, it's like if you feel like you're failing, it does suck. I'm definitely that one of those people who someone will look at me as if I'm working on a project with, and they're asking me a question, and I go, I have no idea. And like in my head, I'm like, why am I here? Like, I'm not going to be able to help in this situation. I need to be able to research things. You give me an issue, I'll get back to you. Then if you have more questions, I'll research and get back to you. But it's just for me, I guess the problem solving is just like being quick, more quick witted, more quick minded on things. So, um, but with me, that that just comes with time. So, but that's been kind of like my last week and a half or so in a nutshell.
Yeah. I mean, at least for me, the small things that people don't care about versus, stuff that I care about. It's like, yeah, I made a mistake. I'm going to figure out a way to fix it. Oh, this is, it's going to be really hard for me to nail down the small percentage of this that is my mistake versus, just data structure mistake and all that. So I figured out a way to figure all that stuff out, the best that anyone was going to be able to do with it. So I take solace in that, and I kind of reuse some of the logic that I had done for something else in the past. But as far as the failing aspect of things, I think it's really hard to see on the other side of it, of how much effort you're actually putting in, how much you're actually learning until you can apply it to something else. So with this feeling of failure or whatnot, it's terrible, but it's also kind of a good reminder that time invested in doing these things will pay dividends. That compounding interest will pay dividends over other aspects of your life. To you know, who are you when there's a fire or a crisis? Who are you when you're not having the best day and you're tired and you still gotta, things are still due. You still gotta submit or commit, certain updates and these things. So, um, at least for me, I like to get more organized and knowing and understanding that of, what, based on how I feel today, based on what I have to get done, can I do extra? What else should I be looking into? What else do I want to get, kind of more comfortable with? And some days you just don't have that time. Today I didn't have that time. Tomorrow might be different. So like keeping it top of mind, and then even when I'm in too deep, like how do I, take a step back and really feel and think about, I wasn't able to solve this problem. I wasn't able to figure out this specific thing, but I know more about this specific data structure. I can understand it. I can explain it better. Or I looked up and found like some other way to pull the data from SQL, so it's easier for me to understand it or something. But I think with where we're at currently right now too, in your job, and I think just the overall landscape, is that like always feeling behind. So with that time spent doing this, so like thinking like, is this really worth it? And yeah, I do think there are times where you're spending a lot of time doing something you don't want to do, spending a lot of time doing things that you don't want to, or that you don't like to do, you don't want to do. And it's helpful somewhere down the line. I wish I knew when, because a lot of times it takes a long time for that to actually show up. But it's really, at least for me, like I feel like tracking that a little bit better can make me feel better about it, and that change of perspective of, I failed, but I took initiative, or I couldn't figure out this problem, but I'm a lot better at understanding where the smoke is and where the fire is. And I feel more confident in being able to tackle this tomorrow. Or how do you prioritize and do some other things? So, like, what currently needs to be done? What do I want to learn more about? And there's always more to learn, but some days you just don't really have the time. And some days you're just dealing with stuff that's so tedious and so disappointing, because anytime you're dealing with people, it tends to be disappointing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's really helpful to you, but I hope you, I hope it gets better for you.
Yeah, same to you, man. Like, damn it, I had a point. No, I just lost it. Well, let's move on to my next thing. But yeah, I've also been cooking a lot for myself more. Um, Branching out, like made a macaroni and cheese soup, which doesn't sound that difficult. You just put in the Velveeta and you're done. But I made it from scratch for my potluck today. But this was me last night, and my wife provided instructions, but I still kind of had to do on the fly because she does eyeball testing for like measuring ingredients and spices and things because she's at that level where she can do that. You know still pretty much looking at it to gain knowledge, but there's sometimes there comes the bumps and bruises. I started off making a roux. I don't know if you know what that is, but kind of just like getting your soup base to where it can get kind of thicken. But like, I think I burned half of what I made, just because I was only on medium heat, but I think it was on like the higher end of medium. And, so I kind of scorched that. So I had to add to it a little bit at a lower temperature. So it took longer. But, then I just got back on track and I made a pretty delicious mac and cheese soup. My coworkers all loved
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I filled a 5 quart um, crock pot with it, and there's probably less than a bowl, that's 12 ounces, and I think I filled half it. So I think I had 6 ounces of it left. Um, Mind you, there's only 12 people at this office, so it's not like there's a whole company. But my soup was popular, so um, but and it was a little on the salty end. I think just when I added some of the cheese, I didn't take into account some of the sodium level. So but I balanced it out with like some more onion powder, garlic powder, and black powder, to help. So those flavors are a little bit stronger, and it turned out very well. But I guess my point is that when you have the time to learn, take it. Obviously, if you're just gonna be lazy and play video games instead, which I've done that more times than I can count my entire lifetime. Um, you know, if you don't have the time to do it, then you know, try to find some time, set some time aside, or you know, just make a mental note of I have to come back to this or I have to do this at some point. So, um, yeah, I've been doing a lot of succeeding, but by failing first lately. So, you know, just looking to be, as Jackson Harris used to say, 1% better every day. Um,
Yeah.
and
That's
just starting off this new year on the right foot.
Yep. That's kind of one of the things they don't teach you is that success comes from failure. There's very seldom times that you succeed without ever failing. So
Yeah.
you,
And yeah, I mean, you could, find some of the funniest people in comedy, and they'll tell you that I got here by putting in the work consistently, failing, absolutely nail a joke one night and then the following, felt I said it the same way, same delivery, and the audience just didn't feel it. So, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but if you learn something from your failure, then you that's your victory. You learned something. So
it can, it's a good mindset to have. Uh, Taking initiative, doing work, stuff that we don't want to do, you're always taking something away. And you can't play scared. Like, sports analogies, somebody that a quarterback throws 3 interceptions. Like, you can't play like you don't want to throw an interception because then you're not playing the game. You can't work to not want to try to make a mistake because that's not work. You gotta trust and have that confidence and put things out of the back of your mind just to, kind of keep moving forward. And if it comes down to it and you have to make self reflections, this is me talking to myself, not to the general public, but
yeah, I get it.
you, yeah, it's all about that balance. It's all about, being attuned to who you are, and regardless of the situation, that your identity doesn't change, who you are doesn't change. So holding solace to that fact. And yes, some days you shouldn't play video games, and other days it's necessary, and that's a concession that you make for that specific day and that specific time. But that's the whole balance and the checking in of, I had a tough day. I don't really feel like doing some of the stuff that I wanted to do this week today. So I'm going to play video games. There's stuff that I have to do doesn't have a strict deadline. And I know I'll come back tomorrow and reassess. But for now, it's nothing that's not stressful isn't the right word. Nothing that's pressing that I need to get done and I need to figure out. So, I mean, some days it is okay, but you decide when it's appropriate, and you decide when you're putting things off. And I feel like, yeah, you can't play scared, right? You gotta keep working at it, keep understanding it, and give yourself grace to step away from the computer or play video games when appropriate, and when you want to disregard your other duties. Because, yeah, you don't want to make it an excuse every single day, but some days it's worth it for your own sanity and other things. So I just yeah, hope that me, you, everyone else, anyone listening can take solace in that fact that, like, failure doesn't really mean much of anything. People that are too afraid to fail or too afraid to try and kind of want to sit within the things that they know very well are, in my mind, kind of hampering themselves from that experience of being wrong. And, like, your fear of being wrong, your fear of failure, your fear of committing to something and then now you're expected to do it. That's a fear that I have in a lot of ways. But some things you just got to do, and it's kind of like talking to one of the people I work with, and you think about, like, the game, the corporate game, and the jargon and the acronyms and all this stuff. It's like, am I really that smart to not just want to play the game? Because I understand it enough. I just hate it. But is it smart to be a martyr? In some cases, thinking about it, it's probably not. But I think The people that are, they had enough of a constitution within themselves to know that they didn't believe in what they were taught to believe. They didn't believe in how certain things were going, so they've made a martyr out of themselves. And it's respectable, but when it comes down to like, is that smart? Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. So there are some times where I just feel like I want to have all the answers in the entire world, and then I would have to cope with having that responsibility of everything that and the knowledge of the entire world, and I think I would just completely crumble under that the weight of that, literally. Um, yeah, I think that's all that I wanted to talk about. So, do you have anything else?
Just kind of really associating things like that we grew up with, and I really would like to know and understand kind of like sports in general, of people that grew up playing sports, and it probably made him a better student, a better employee, because that gratification of winning, or all that effort you put in to become a better player, and it pays dividends. But in life and in work, it's a little bit harder for like that understanding, because I didn't like the practice, but I knew it was necessary to get better for myself and help the team out. And at work, I kind of understand that too, of like me digging into issues and me taking initiative and asking these questions, or being wrong and allowing somebody to correct me, and helps the team out. But in terms of, health and exercise and these things, it's not really something that I put a lot of value towards. So that's where I'm like trying to shift that mindset. And like some days you're just not going to win. There's no, you're not racing against somebody. I'm not training for something specific. It's really on myself to assign value to things, and whether or not I'm assigning value to it, or if I'm too scared to try at something because maybe it doesn't work, and then I'm kind of scared to stop doing it the way that I'm doing it because maybe that's the best it's going to be. I don't want to change up, instead of going to the gym 3 days a week down to two. I don't want to change like going to the gym at night rather than in the morning. So there's just like a lot of things that I think about, and in work especially. It's like, I'm out on an island, it seems like, in a lot of times, in a lot of different ways. And um, it it's tough some days, but also kind of exciting, to the point of, I don't know if I'm doing things correctly. I don't know if I'm doing things that they want me to do, but I'm just trying to get, better every day. Shout out to Jackson Harris, 1% better every day, and it'll compound. So that's kind of what I'm leaving with.
Yeah. Shout out to an RIP to our boy. Um, yeah, I think on the athlete point, I'll close with this. On the athlete point, it's like you learn all about competition, and like, if you're um, I think that's what it kind of talking to your point of, an athlete makes a better student or employee. Yeah, it's like the level of competitiveness, because you know it, at least for me, I'm a very competitive person, and I don't know if that was just like my natural instinct, or if that was just instilled in me because of sports. Like, I didn't I didn't like being like the probably too short to play center, but maybe too fat to play a guard in basketball. But so I was in the small forward, power forward position, and I was getting out rebounded by guys who were 6'8", and I'm 6'3" at most. Um, I learned to kind of learn how to box out somebody who's taller and potentially stronger than I am. It's all about leveraging your hips the right way and really driving them back. So, um, yeah, I think that's kind of me awakening in me right now is just like a sense of competition of like you said, I'm out on an island. There's I believe the movie is Gettysburg, but there's a line. I think it's. I want to say it's Jeff Daniels' character, but I'm not 100% sure. He goes to the very far left of the Union soldiers' line. He goes, "Gentlemen, take a look to your right. You'll notice men. If you take a look at your left, there is nothing. We are the end of the line." And that's what being like, some sort of project manager or analyst, where you're like, as David said, out on an island, like, it's sink or swim, and it's you got to win, you got to think to win. So because you are the answer, like you have to have the answer. And it puts a lot of pressure, but if you look at it from the competitive, failure learning mindset, um you'll you'll find that you have the knowledge that you didn't think you had before. And I and just taking those 1%, that 1% every day, um every day, um you'll get there. Because just completely flipping them a mindset overnight or instantly isn't a thing. Like, we're not going to truly be able to break all of our bad habits, but we can switch them so that maybe they're a little bit less each time. Um, I guess kind of the analogy of, or part of the code of Dexter, is to maybe actually I'm not even going to go there. Never mind. But getting back to the broader point, if you make a football, if you just make a pitcher trying to teach him a new pitch, but he has to learn how to switch an arm angle. Now you're just asking him to be a completely different person. But if you learn how to teach, or if you can teach them, or if you are a person who are learning to maybe throw the pitch at a slightly different angle, or not even change our or have to, so you're not telegraphing what pitch you're throwing, but you're going to develop that over simulated bullpen sessions and spring training and all that sort of things. But that's all practice. Like, you can't skip practice. And if your practice is failure, then learning by failing, then that's your lesson that's been taught. So I don't want to do with that.
Yeah, who comes out in the end? The person that failed a bunch of times and had to figure out how to make things work, or the person that had all the answers for a while and then gets put into a situation where you're going to have to adapt and you're going to have to change and you're going to have to look at things in a different way than you had before, and realize that fact and know when it's a good time to adapt instead of sticking to what you currently are doing. So there's always nuance and different variables to be had with all aspects of our life, and we only have a certain amount of time every day, week, month, on this earth at large. So sometimes that time invested in your own mental sanity, or further learning, or trying to figure out why you made a mistake or the failures and things that you had, is all that's worth time doing, as long as you assign that to it. So really just like a change of mindset, and like, yeah, I took initiative, it didn't work out, but I took X, Y, and Z away from it, and I'll have time tomorrow, I'll have time this week, or this has to be done, so I'm gonna get it to the best of my ability, to that point, and come back to it later. It's just the kind of the fact of life. You can't do everything every day, but the time you spend doing one thing can pay dividends to something else down the line. And it's hard to remember that sometimes, especially for me. So, all right, I'll kind of cut it there. The melatonin I took's taken, and so,
All right.
all right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.